way or another, we're able to help the person get out of that.
Now, Bubba, do you remember last year we had Tony Corrado and you came into the station and
Yes.
we did a whole show on DUI. And Tony, who is an expert, right, you know, in field testing, teaching them and, you know, having been a former law enforcement officer, he gave me a test here in the studio, sober, and you posted that on YouTube.
I did. I posted your video. You
Right.
couldn't do it.
Okay, so I could not do it. I was drinking Dr. Pepper, and I failed my test in the studio.
That's right. And you have a nice flat level surface with air conditioning and good lighting, and you couldn't do it. You were nervous as a cat.
But so what happens at night? Lights, uneven surface, and I'm thinking I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to go to jail. There's no way.
That's correct. Most people can't pass them. That's why I say don't take anything before the cuffs go on. If they do cuff you, then they've arrested you with little or no evidence. You haven't said anything to incriminate yourself. You haven't tried to beg. You haven't tried to drop names. You haven't done anything to screw your case up. Once they read you that card that says if you don't take this test, you're going to lose the right to drive, I say take it, but you have a right to an independent test at your choice of hospitals. You can tell them with any reasonable distance to go to the hospital and let you get your own blood test.
Okay. Let's take another question if we can. Andy from Atlanta, thanks for calling. How are you, Andy? Good. Okay.
The consequences are the same for commercial drivers, whether they're in a personal vehicle or in the commercial motor vehicle. So the first disqualification, if you're convicted of that DUI, would be a year, but it could be as much as losing your commercial driving privilege for life, depending upon your prior record.
And the standard, though, let me ask you this question. So the standard when I'm say above 21 and I'm driving, I'm pulled over and suspected of driving under the influence, it's 0.08, right? Blood alcohol?
That's correct.
Okay, BAC of 0.08. The CDL driver, though, isn't it a different level?
It is when he's operating a commercial motor vehicle.
So that's the 0.04.
Right.
What happens, so here's my question, I don't know the answer to this. If I'm a CDL driver and I get pulled over and I get a 0.06, I would have, and I'm driving my private vehicle, okay? So how does that affect the CDL license?
There would not be an administrative suspension because you haven't exceeded the threshold for the vehicle that you're driving.
Okay.
But you are still possibly going to be charged with DUI depending upon whether there's been a less safe act of driving,
Okay.
how you performed on the field sobriety.
Well, let's say they didn't charge me, okay, because I didn't take the test, I blew under a 0.08, and just hypothetically, I either didn't get charged or it was was dropped and everything has gone away, but it was over the CDL threshold, but it was under the non-commercial vehicle threshold.
There would not be a consequence in that circumstance.
Let me mention one other thing,
Yeah.
though. This is something very important. If the person does test at a 0.08 or more or refuses, and they have an administrative suspension, meaning the CDL is picked up, they can't drive a commercial vehicle from that point forward. You must have the full commercial license in your possession to drive a commercial vehicle. You can drive your personal vehicle and do the appeal, but until you get that CDL license back, you can't get behind the wheel of a CDL.
So in that 30-day window, when I have that 30-day permit...
Longer than that. You may not get your hearing for 60
No, I know, but I'm just using that as the quick example of I still would have the opportunity to drive, right?
Correct.
I'd have that 30-day window and 10 days to appeal, as you mentioned.
Right, he'd still be able to drive the commercial vehicle until the suspension goes into effect. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, that's the federal branch of USDOT who has authority over commercial drivers. They've actually issued some regulatory interpretations, and as long as they've got the temporary driving permit, he could continue to drive. But once that suspension goes into effect, the administrative suspension goes into effect, he would not be able to drive a commercial vehicle.
All right, so let me throw one at you here, Jennifer. We talked earlier about an indefinite period of suspension when I don't pay my child support. Not alimony, but child support.
Right.
Right. I got another indefinite period of suspension. According to the statute, it says the suspension for failing to appear for a motor vehicle violation, I'm indefinitely suspended?
Correct. Well, you're suspended until you
Until.
get it cleared up with the court and possibly cleared up with DDS. DDS sends those notices as soon as we get the information from the court. We give you a 28-day grace period before your license suspension would go into effect. So during that 28 days, if you get back in touch with the court, get the ticket taken care of, the suspension is deleted from your driving record and it all goes away. That's the end of the conversation.
Right.
After the 28th day, if you don't take care of the failure to appear, then you're gonna need to take care of the ticket with the court, and then there'd be a $100 reinstatement fee owed to DDS as well.
All right. I mean, it's amazing stuff. I'll tell you what we're going to do. Let's go through some of the myths and misconceptions. Some of the things that you guys think you have the answers, or maybe your attorney who drafts your wills and trusts thinks he has the answer. We're going to show you where we're wrong. You want to know about driver's licenses? We've got the information. You're listening to Adam Goldfein. Our phone number is 404-872-0750. News Talk, WSB.
I just learned something. They relaxed the standard. When did they do that?
Alan Trapp asked me about it at one of the seminars, and I thought we sent it out over Dodd and Gactyl. I'll get you a copy of it.
Okay, I missed it.
Alan's got it.
I got a guy in that situation
Yeah.
right now.
He can drive until the suspension
Okay, great.
goes into effect.
What's the price of admission here?
Robert from Smyrna is an ex-DUI enforcement officer, has